All right, so I'm going to quick go over compound interest formula since we didn't get to this in class, but you'll probably have at least one of these on your quiz or maybe your test. So compound interest, it's still the same idea of growth and decay, okay? So same idea, except sometimes when you're compounding interest in terms of money, sometimes it compounds more than just yearly. And when we were looking at our examples with growth and decay, we just had like one time period, so every week or every month. So there was just the t value, okay? And this can change sometimes when we're looking at these money examples. So my formula this time is a little bit different. I still have my function here. So the amount in the account after t years, that's going to be my a or a sub t, and that's going to equal my principal balance. That's my beginning. You can think about it like your b. Okay, that's where you start. And then in here, it's very similar to what we did before. So this time it's still 1 plus, but now my annual interest rate is going to be in the numerator here. I'm going to have a fraction. So my R is going to go on top, and then the number of times that we compound in a year is going to be in the bottom. So if we compound yearly, this end value is just going to be 1. But let's say we compounded quarterly, then we would compound 4 times through the year. So this rate would get divided by 4 if we had a quarterly example. And I'd use that 4 again up here, and I'd multiply by the number of years. And I'll show you some examples with this in just a second. All right, so let's look at an example here. So it says the variable n stands for the number of times compounded per year. Below are common values of n. So we want to notice that you will use this value twice in the compound interest formula. Here's my n. This is what I was talking about in that last slide when I was showing you the formula. Okay, so if it says that it compounds annually, your n value is going to be 1. If it says that it compounds quarterly, your n value is going to be 4. If it's monthly, there's 12 months in a year, so n would be 12. And if it was daily, it would be 365. Okay, so this I would take maybe a snip of if you need to. This is important for figuring out your value of n. All right, so let's do an example. So here's my formula for compound interest, and I have all of the parts. So here's all my variables, and we're going to fill in the variables with the values we get from my problem. So it says Mrs. Hohen invested $5,000. Oh, look, she invested $5,000. That's my initial value. That's my principal. Okay, we just say principal when we're talking about money. Okay, so that's my $5,000. And then it says that we're investing it at 1.5% interest. Okay, that's a percentage, that's a rate, that's going to be my R, so 1.5%. But remember, when we're plugging in percentages into our formula, we have to divide that by 100 to get the actual decimal value. So I'm going to take that 1.5% and I'm going to divide it by 100, and that's going to give me 0.015. Okay, that's going to be the rate that I use for my R. So I would plug that value in for R. Okay, now it says that it's compounded monthly. So every month in 1 year, we have 12 months. So my N value is going to be 12. And I want to know the total value of the investment after 10 years. So the total number of years that we're looking at is 10. So now I have all of my pieces. I have my principal, I have my rate, I have my N value, how many times per year something is compounding, and then the total number of years that we're looking at is my 10. So then I can go ahead and just plug all of these pieces into my formula here. So A is going to equal my principal, that was that 5,000 times 1 plus, okay, my rate is 0.015, and I divide that by the number of times in a year it's compounded, which is 12. Okay, and then I'm going to raise that all to the n times t, so 12 times 10. Okay, so that's how I would plug all of that in. Now we just solve it. So you could, if you wanted to, plug it all into your calculator at once, or you could do a little simplifying first and then plug that in if that makes you a little bit more comfortable. So if I simplified first just slightly, this would turn into, let's see, or I guess I didn't do that, but I'll do it here. Okay, so this would turn into 1.00125, and then it's gonna all get raised to the 1/20th power. Okay, so then I could just plug that in, and when I do, I end up with 5,808.63 cents. Okay, and this is dollars because we're talking about money. So I can keep the decimal since we're talking about money. Okay, I don't have to get rid of the decimal. It's totally fine to have cents when we're talking about investing our money. Okay, so I'll do one more here in case you need it. And then you should be good to go for your quiz. So you deposit $1,600 in a bank account. Okay, so there's my initial principal balance. Okay, so my P is going to be that 1,600. It says to find the balance after 3 years. So there's my total number of years. That's my T. If the account pays 2.4%, there's my rate. 2.4%, but remember we have to divide that by 100 to get our decimal. So that's going to give me 0.024. And then it says it's annual interest and it's compounded quarterly. So here's that, how often it's compounded. So my N value is going to be 4. All right. Excuse the baby burp. That was not me. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and plug everything into my formula. Okay, so A is going to equal my principal, my $1,600 or 1,600, and then we do that 1 plus, and then my rate 0.024, and I divide that by how often it's compounded in the year, and that's that 4 times because it was compounded quarterly. So I divide that rate by 4. Okay, so once I do that, notice I'm using 2 sets of parentheses here because this is my fraction. I just didn't write it as a fraction, so it's easier for me to type it. And then we raise that to our power of n times t. And my n was 4, and the number of years was 3. So again, you could just plug all of this right into your equation or into your calculator to get your answer. If you need to see it simplified one step, it would look like this. Let me just put okay, this would turn into 1.006, and then that would get raised to the 12th power. So that's if I simplify a little bit more. And then my final answer, once I plug all of that in, I'd end up with that answer choice D, or $1,719.08. Okay, so hopefully that helps kind of clarify a little bit for you with a compound interest. It's very similar to what we did with our growth and decay, except we have that little extra step there of how often something is compounded in a year. So that's just that extra little piece there. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me and I will do my best to get back to you as quickly as possible. You guys have a great day.